Shema everyone, it's JonnyVR here, back with the final Doctor Who review of the season. It's Empire of Death, and as always, if you're watching this and you've just finished watching this, do let me know where you've been watching. You've been watching on Disney Plus. I actually have been watching on Disney Plus this week, so it wasn't midnight for me, it was 6 p.m. Because I'm traveling, but if you stayed up to watch it or saw it in the cinema, pop a comment down below. I would love to hear how the whole experience went. So as always, the first part of this review will be spoiler free, and then I'll go into spoiler territory and discuss more things about the episode. As always, post your comments down below, and let's have a discussion about the episode and the potential future. Let's get into it. Spoiler free review. I think that this episode was, first of all, it has a lot of really cool action moments in my opinion. I think that particularly around Sutek, the character himself, I think the way that he's dealt with in part of the episode is pretty cool. Also, kind of brutal at some point, I think it shocked me sometimes the visual imagery, I think, of what was being shown. And I think that besides that, I think the episode, it has its action moments, but it does have its sort of somber moments as well. I think somber is the word that I would call this episode. It was actually it has its peaks and its troughs. It has its action and it has its somber moments. In the end, I do think that there's more of a somber feel about the episode. Almost kind of a hopelessness aspect of it, which is not necessarily a bad thing, but I kind of wasn't quite expecting that. It's an interesting one. I think the thing most about this episode is the answers that kind of we were, have been looking for all throughout this season. They do get explained, and it's probably not what you were expecting. I can't say I'm surprised either. I feel like I think this is kind of understandable, the way he went with the story. So let me know what you think about it. To be honest, I'm okay with it. I think there could be more twists at the end. I think there could be more to it. You never know. But I think for now, it feels a little bit sort of finalized, and maybe if you had your theories, maybe, you'll be a little bit, underwhelmed maybe. I think this is the thing. I think sometimes when you build up for a whole season and you let people think and have their own theories about what's going on. Sometimes you get all these grand things, so maybe it's a little bit of expectation check, or who knows? Again, maybe it's the future, and for now it's like this one thing, but it could change in future seasons. Who knows? But I'm okay with it. I think there was a lot of emotion, particularly at the end. I think Ncuti was brilliant once more. I did like his interactions with Sutek. I think Sutek as a villain was really cool, awesome voice, and I did think that considering how he looks now, I think they did sort of a good enough job with it. And I think a lot of the budget now has went on Sutek for this season. There's definitely some setup for the next seasons. There's a few clues, a few extra clues about different aspects. I do think that there is some breadcrumbs that might lead to more things in the second season. And I think one of the things that I liked most of all is that the episode sometimes it does provide some context for other media. Or other things that have been seen recently in the Doctor Who universe, and other episodes as well. I did like how it did bring some connections from episodes that have come fairly recently, and it seems like things that didn't seem important in those episodes actually did provide a sort of a key part in this episode, which I did like. It's a few connections here and there. So yeah, I think I did like the action most of all. There was emotion. I did think that some of the answers and the things that we were promised were maybe will be just slightly underwhelming, but I'm open to it as it is, the story, and there's always potential for more twists, which I'll explain more in the spoiler section. So I think it was a good finale, ties up a lot of things, and yeah, leaves some breadcrumbs for next season. Yeah, I think it's not. I don't think it's going to be the most shocking finale I think that people were expecting, but I can't go into anymore without going into spoiler territory. So this is your spoiler warning. So starts off pretty okay. So for me, the way this episode started off with Susan Twist, bringing Sutek's dust of death, blowing sand, and basically killing everyone in a sandstorm. I did think this was really cool. The effect of the sand destroying cities, and I really thought the action of Mel taking the Doctor on the bike through the streets as just chaos ensued. I liked that. It was a very disaster movie. But it was very quickly established earlier on in the episode that the sand, first of all, kills the Blinks, it kills Kate Bush, it kills Carla, Ruby's mum, it kills everyone. And when this happened, I was like, for sure, they will find a way to reverse this. So I did think that there was quite a very true reversal of events by the end of the episode, and I think that whether the effects of this episode are going to be referenced as having an impact in future seasons, we'll wait and see. Otherwise, it seemed to me from minute one, I was like, okay, this is we're looking at a definite reset of events here. More on that later. But first of all, we talk about the TARDIS in the time window. Many people guessed correctly that this was turned out to be the memory TARDIS that was in the Tales of the TARDIS sort of mini-series of omnibus episodes. So I did like this because it does bring that TARDIS into sort of the story about we pretty much, if you're in the UK, you'll have seen Tales of the TARDIS as as other characters of the Doctors and the companions coming back, but now it gives the origin story for that. So it kind of brings that Tales of the TARDIS closer into the narrative, which I did like. And of course, the memory TARDIS is rich with props and bits of TARDIS that if you've watched the show for many years, you'll have a whale of a time just looking for references and things like that. Lots of things come into play. There was pretty much lots of red herrings as well. There was this kind woman with a baby on an unnamed planet with a mysterious item. It turns out to be a spoon. And this spoon saves the universe in a way, but all it was really was to provide some metal to keep the memory monitor connected to the TARDIS alive. So again, Russell Davies, he does love a red herring. He made a big deal about that on social media about who is this mysterious woman. Maybe she does become important. We don't know. But her mysterious object was just kind of very quickly to keep the monitor alive, to keep the memory alive. Otherwise, they would be doomed. So what I think was interesting about this episode is the fact that Sutek's dust kills everyone, and because he's been apparently there since, if I remember correctly, the Pyramids of Mars. So the episode way back in the 70s, I think, in the Fourth Doctor era, when he gets flung into the time vortex. Apparently he's been around since then, and every time he's landed, there's been a Susan Twist, and so it's not when Susan Twist in the present day is blowing sand everywhere and killing everyone. It's not just her in that time. It's also in every time and every planet. So it's widespread empire of death, which I think is very cool. It's a very interesting way to use the time machine to cause universal destruction, and it's just chaos, and it's awesome. what I did think was interesting, there was a few, like for example, the kind woman on that planet, the Doctor, Ruby, and Mel. They're the ones who survived from the planet Earth, and then they meet this kind woman who, for some reason, is still alive. There was kind of a dark moment where she says to the Doctor that she thinks the baby is dead and she forgot because memory is dying. That becomes a brief thing. That not just people are dying, memories are dying. And then it has this weird thing that the death wave can travel from child to mother. Like, there was a few things that were very quickly sort of brushed over to give her, basically her to give the spoon, and then she dies. She just puffs into a sand. And we're led to believe, actually, that this is a very long time passing from when they leave Earth and the Doctor appears in the robes on the planet. So there's an unknown amount of time there, but I believe it to be a long time, and somehow some people survive the death wave, but not for long, and not forever. But when it comes to confronting Sutekh, he says that the Doctor and Ruby are like the last two things in existence. And the thing is, he said that everything has dead cells, so he can see through death. So he can connect to. He possesses Mel in the end, because he can look through time and space. Again, it's part of the thing in the episode, and again, that eventually Mel will be brought back. But they find basically. Interesting part of the episode, which I thought, is that it adds a whole new reason for 73 yards. It's confirmed that the TARDIS perception filter is 73 yards, which is, of course, the significant number from the episode 73 yards. Ruby, again, seems to have an awareness of the events of that episode, and the TARDIS, the Doctor, has been to 2046. That's why he knew about the Prime Minister, Roger Ap Gwilym, who again makes an appearance in this episode, for when he was having the interview. And because the TARDIS had been there, it's sort of alive in death. He can go back to it, and everyone is dead because, of course, the death wave. But I thought that was a really interesting way of bringing something from that episode, which again lots of people are going to be talking about for many, many years, and it's still having impacts. And I think while that episode was so sort of vivid, I would hope to see that there's more impact of that episode in the future. But anyway, so they go to 2046. Because Roger Ap Gwilym makes DNA testing compulsory. So again, he doesn't, if I remember correctly, he doesn't say that in 73 yards. It's an extra scene from the interview that they added for this episode, but I'll have to check. But then, yes, DNA testing becomes compulsory. So if Ruby's mum is still alive, then she has to do the DNA testing. So that's how they find her mother. And it's the reason why Sutekh... he's kind of keeping them alive because she's also unknown to Sutekh, and this makes a kind of a massive thing about who this person was, like who is Ruby's mum. And then they find the DNA match in 2046, and they have it on the monitor, and that's when Mel takes them all back to Unit Tower where Sutekh is. So at this point I want to say that Sutekh is a CGI creature throughout the whole episode. I was hoping for like a physical actor there, but I can understand why they went for the CGI monster. I did think, considering now he's more prominent in this episode than he was in the last one, you do get some cooler like angles. Like it's not just he's there clutching the TARDIS all the time. He does like sort of move around a little bit, and particularly when I get rid of him, you can see there's a lot of movement there. And I think for what it is, I think it does look pretty good, better than like the kind of CGI monsters they've done in recent years, like the Chagaskas, I think, or whatever it was, from Can You Hear Me? But anyway, so basically he wants to know. They take the Doctor and Ruby to Sutekh. She has the name of her mum on the screen. She goes to Sutekh and drops it. And there was, kind of what happens next, I think, is awesome action and also kind of brutal. So they have the rope. They have the rope that they used to fix the memory TARDIS, intelligent rope and intelligent gloves, which again is a reference to Church on Ruby Road. So again, other aspects of other episodes coming in and playing a role. And she literally attaches the rope to Sutek's neck. The Doctor uses intelligent glove to like really get a grip on this monster, and I did think this was really cool. One thing is that was again a little confusing is the whistle. So the Doctor then starts to control the TARDIS with the whistle. Again, this is kind of brushed over. Like it's a little bit of an easy way out. Considering you know we're made to believe that Sutek's been in the TARDIS for so long that like he can control it, and then a whistle can solve it. So a little bit neither here nor that. But for me, I think it's at least a little bit believable because there is at least evidence in the past that the Doctor can control the TARDIS with like a click of his fingers and things like that. So yeah, he kind of becomes like Yondu from Guardians of the Galaxy and takes back the TARDIS just so that he can pull Sutek through time. And I think this is really kind of brutal imagery for Doctor Who, because he like takes this animal by the neck and like all of a sudden he brings through the time vortex Sutek, sort of kind of in a nod to how he defeated Sutek before. And this is again something really kind of brushed over, but the way that Sutek is like literally hanging on by this rope by the neck, and he's like flailing about in the time vortex is really kind of brutal, I think. And he reaches out with his clawed hands and he's ripping through the time vortex. And then you can see present day, you can see other places, like, and people coming back. So like somehow his ripping through the time vortex is reversing his death wave. Whether or not they definitely remember it by the end, but like how that actually brings them back is kind of a bit, in the air. I do think something as crazy as that, like ripping the time vortex, is going to have consequences later on. It's too like I think damaging the time vortex the way that it showed, I really hope has consequences as well. So I think there's certain breadcrumbs in that in this episode like that I think is going to also come into play in later series. And then it turns out once I did like as well the Doctor's confrontation with Sutek in the time vortex, where he actually has to accept that he has to kill Sutek, and so he does that. I made me think of Peter Capaldi and the Clockwork Man. Did he push him or did he jump? Whereas I feel like now it's like he killed Sutek and he's aware of it, and he's aware of what Sutek has made him become. So I did think that was very interesting. Then after that, we're left with some loose ends to tie up, namely Ruby's mother. It turns out that she is a normal person. And she's not anyone that we've been theorizing, just a normal person. She has a father as well, who, again, they don't say much about him, but they say that they've kind of found him. And again, maybe her mother is not that kind of person everyone thought she was going to be, but maybe the father is going to play a bigger role at some point. Who knows? But I feel like for maybe some people, that reveal will be a bit underwhelming. I did think that maybe it would be something, more like in the Whoniverse itself. But again, I can understand why and this idea that Ruby's mother was sort of not being able to be seen because like everything seemed to revolve around her, and it made her this kind of thing, which again is very similar to sort of the way that he's done before with like the whole universe revolving around Donna Noble, a seemingly ordinary like person. So again, I feel like it has been done before. It was very like Russell T Davies from before. So I'm okay with it for now, and I think that maybe in the future they will maybe bring back some of the aspects that were kind of dropped here and there within this episode. It just meant that there was a lot of emotion in this episode with the reuniting of Ruby and her mother, and she leaves for now. She will come back, but she leaves the TARDIS for now, which is, again, preparing for next season. I do think that Mrs. Flood was clearly now looking very much like a villain, appearing at the end of the episode in like this really kind of a Cruella de Vil outfit, almost in a white umbrella. And when she dies in the death wave, she's like, I had such plans, you know, like she never got to fulfill her evil plan. So I'm very convinced now that she's evil. We'll have to wait and see who she is. So let me know again your thoughts on her down below. Yeah, I think that's pretty much it. Susan Triad is still alive. She does come back as a normal Susan Triad, and maybe she'll work for Unit now. Who knows? Maybe there's potential for her to come back. And yeah, happy days. So overall, I think that the episode was exciting in its moments. It had its very cool action moments. It has very cool emotional moments. There was some aspects of the series like that has been building up through like the last 8 weeks of episodes that maybe we were led to think one thing, and sort of our expectations were maybe pushed to be a little bit higher, which may make it seem a little bit underwhelming. But that being said, I did enjoy the episode for its action and its resolution. It comes to kind of a neat and tidy end with some I believe breadcrumbs for next season. So that's it. That's the season. And thanks again very much for everyone who's been watching, commenting, interacting. I can't wait for the next season, and I hope that you will stay with me when the episodes drop next time to do all this again. I can't thank you enough for watching, and make sure you click like and subscribe for more videos in the future. So with all that said and done, thanks very much for the end of season 1. See you next time. Bye!